before we start going down the implementation path. I'm going to start just with a one-slide introduction that covers kind of the breadth of eMedical Fusion, and then we'll go right into an actual demo scenario. So right now, eMedical Fusion, it is an EHR. A lot of people ask that. Is it a practice manager? Yes, it is, but it's also all these other things. So it is your scheduling system. It will include patient self-scheduling. It has built-in e-commerce, so you will not be using an external terminal of any sort. You can do all the processing through eMedical Fusion. It does have a secure online patient registration system so that patients can register for your practice securely and online. It does have a web store and a shopping cart so that both not only your patients but as well your non-patients, their associates, their friends, their colleagues can also buy your supplements. We do provide QuickBooks integration so that we are taking all of the detailed financial transactions and putting those into QuickBooks at a location of your choice. So that saves a lot of time for your accountant and also allows you to have real-time business intelligence. As we mentioned earlier, there is a patient portal. The patient portal, of course, has the online registration, but it has lots more functions. Patients can update their demographic data. They can do pretty much lots of functions. They can see their lab results. They can communicate securely with you. They can see their financial statement. So lots of things the patients can do in the patient portal. The vendor portal is if you're using our drop shippers. We have 7 or 8 drop shippers that will automatically ship orders from those particular vendors. Like these are vendors like Metagenics, Designs for Health, Orthomolecular, and so on and so forth. They will ship orders automatically directly to the patient, allowing you to earn the full profit in those scenarios. And then we do have lead management. So lead management is a piece of our software that will allow you to fully manage all of the leads that you're getting into eMedical Fusion. And we'll explain that a little bit further in the demo. So that's kind of the breadth of eMedical Fusion. I just wanted to cover that first. Are there any questions about that before we move on?
No. No.
Okay. So I don't intend, since this demo is primarily focused on staff, I don't really intend to do the fully focus on, one second here, I just need to look at one email here. I don't need to fully focus on the patient experience right now. I really want to spend this hour just focus mainly on the staff experience. So I'll just mention, I pulled up your site. As you know, your site is pre.myemedfusion.com, and then your patient portal is the same with a /EPP. That's how you get to the patient portal part of the site. So if a patient were going to register, they would simply click here, don't have a profile, create one now, and that would allow them to start the registration process. So on this screen here, they would put in the username, they get to create their own password, they're going to put in all their demographic data, their first name, their phone numbers, up to 3 different phone numbers, their email addresses, and then their billing information, billing and shipping addresses. So again, and if these are the same, they can copy one over to the other. And then they're just going to put in the little squiggly character down here, the 840, 454, to make sure that they're not some sort of automated tool trying to create entries in your system. And then they'll click Create My Profile. So that's all it takes for them to create the basic profile. After they've done that, they'll be able to finish, fill out a health history form, which we covered last time, in which, as you know, you guys need to make your selection on which one you're going to use, the default ones. They'll then acknowledge HIPAA and privacy policies. From there, they will be able to make their payment arrangements if you're requiring advance payment. And then the last step is they can actually schedule their initial appointment. So those are the steps that they'll go through in order to finish up the registration process. Now, as they're doing that, you'll see that live happening in the administrative portal. So keep in mind that these portals look very similar, but the one you're using is called the patient management portal. The one they're using is called the e-patient portal. So that's the slight difference there. They're going to have, they're both going to have the logo, and in your cases, they will both have the logo of the actual practice, because you'll have a slightly different extension for each location, and it'll actually be able to have a combination logo if you choose, or however you choose to brand these practices that will be able to be on the site. For today, though, the rest of it, we're going to work with our DH Wellness Centers, which is our demo site. So I'm going to go ahead and log into that. maybe. That'd be one of those. Let me start over here. Okay, there we go. So when you log in, there are a few things you're going to see on the dashboard. The first is you're going to see what I call work streams. Any of these up here that have a number behind them indicates the number of items that are there to be handled that have not been handled. So admin options, the number 3, is dealing with the declines in the overnight payment process. So there's an overnight payment process, and apparently there were some declines, and I can show you those here really quickly. But this is where you would go to handle those on the ARB unsuccessful transactions. This is where you go to handle. If you're using our automated payment processing, these transactions in either last night or some other night declined in the overnight processing, and from here you can process payment orders, send them a bounce item email, or otherwise handle that particular scenario. The next thing that you're going to see in the work streams area up here is the EIMS inquiries, which is our word for leads. So that stands for E-Inquiry Management System. And we can see here that there are 54 leads that have not been opened. So in this case, it's representing ones that have not been opened. And as you know, this is a demo practice, so that's going to happen. So if we take here, for example, and these leads get here by one of two ways. You can certainly add a lead manually by clicking New Inquiry, and this would be in the case of a phone lead. So if someone calls in, rather than putting them on a pink slip or a white slip or some kind of piece of paper, you would just simply log that lead into here. So all you need is their first name, their last name, their email, their phone number, and how they found you. And these are customizable, these resources here, so you can indicate how they found you. So the second way they get in is automatically through our plugin that attaches to your contact form. So you have a contact form on your website. Once your website's up, you'll have a contact form, and typically that contact form then will allow a person that finds you after business hours to leave their contact information and say they'd like to be contacted. When they do that, that'll automatically populate here in the eMedical Fusion. So here we can see that this person here is looking for, need to lose weight and get my energy back, is what he's saying. Let's just go ahead and click into George Jones's lead record, and we'll look at what we can do with that lead record from there. So if we're managing this lead record, the content that George put is here. First thing I should mention is that amongst all of your practices, you'll be able to select from the various locations here in this drop-down. So depending on, since this is an overall Previent website and not one for each location, when the lead comes in, it's going to be non-location specific. You can look at their address if desired and then assign it to a location right here in this location drop-down. All your locations that you've enabled to that point would be here. So you'd be able to assign the lead to the proper location. Also, then you can log a call or log a task. So the difference is, if we're logging a task, we would put a date here. So like, let's say we want to make sure we call them back on January 27th as a follow-up. We can put some follow-up comments here. We can say, spoke to lead, wants call back when he returns from vacation on 1/27. So if I do that, that will then put a future task into the system for me to call. You'll see that goes in the to-do area down here, and it also goes on to this thing called the lead follow-up report, so that I can automatically go to this report on a daily basis, and you can see there it is, spoke to lead, will call back when he returns. So that is showing up on my follow-up list, so I don't have to know or remember that it was that particular patient. I can just always go to the follow-up list. So that's the way that we use the follow-up list. The other thing we can do there, of course, is just document the call itself. So if we don't put a date here, then it's just documenting the call, and so we can say, spoke to George, very interested and ready to get started Okay, so we spoke to him. He's very interested, ready to get started. If we submit that, that's just going to go as a note to the record. So what this allows is if you've got a call center, everybody can be informed of what's happening with all the leads. So you don't have to try to keep track of them in some other system. All the leads can be tracked here. All the comments can be tracked here, and we can see what's going on with all the leads. Now, if they're ready to get started, or if they're not ready to get started, we have a couple other things we can do from this record. We can send them an email, and these are pre-built emails that you can set up, say, for different conditions. So you might have a thyroid email, you might have an HRT email, etc. So you can set different emails up that have pre-built content so that if somebody says, well, can you send me more information about that? Sure, I can, and you can just be able to come here to this and press a certain button, whichever one you want it, and then go ahead and send that that pre-built email out to that particular lead. The other thing you can do besides sending a general pre-built email, there's a specific pre-built email for the people that are ready to move forward. So we would send this one called send intake form email. So that's a specific email that basically, again, is pre-built. Again, all of these, you have the ability to edit any of the content in these leads. But this one just says, thanks for your inquiry. You may call the office if you need further discussion. If you're ready to get started, click this link. So they would click this link, which puts them into that same page we talked about earlier, and then they would fill out these 5 steps. So basically, again, this content can be customized to the exact way you're using the system, but the idea is that this email is the one that you send them if they say, yeah, I'm ready to get started. How do I get started? Okay. So that's all we have to do is click send, and that will also self-document that we've sent it so that if someone else is looking at this record, they can see, if we scroll down here to the bottom, that on 120 that this email was sent. And that can be helpful because sometimes, obviously, if the patient says they didn't get it, maybe you're talking to them 3 days later and they didn't get it, that probably means that either one or two things. Either the email is going into spam or they gave you a slightly wrong email address, which is the more likely case. So you want to double check whenever you take email addresses. You want to really double check and make sure you got them right and spell it back, because we see that a lot where the patient didn't get it or the lead didn't get it because the email address was incorrect. Okay, so that pretty well covers the main day-to-day user actions in the lead management area. At any point in time, you can always run a lead summary report, which is very nice because it will it'll show you all the leads you've had. This is for a 30-day period over any period of time. It'll show you how they got disposed of. In other words, did any of them close or did they not close or whatever happened. I should mention here that, let's go back here to the lead record one more time, that when people register and go on and become a patient, there's a way for you to mark the lead as a converted lead, okay? And that way you'll know over time what % of your leads you're converting. So there is a way, for example, as we convert these leads, like I said, that we can go into this drop down here and there's a converted lead checkbox. And so we can mark this lead as a converted lead, and that way we'll know which ones would close and what % over time we close. So that's one more function you'll probably want to do on a daily basis is, as the patient comes in and presents for the very first time, someone will want to come to this lead record and mark it as a converted lead, okay? All right, so that's pretty much the process of managing leads on a daily basis. Any questions about that?
No.
Okay. So the next thing we'll talk about here a little bit is the intake files. This is the area where all of the files are going to be stored that people have submitted. So this is where their history form and their HIPAA forms and things like that are stored. So this is where you can go to see exactly who's done what. So this shows you all of them. You can also get to the same page if you're on their record, but if you're on their patient record, it'll only show you that particular patient's forms. And this is where you can open this file from. There's the HIPAA or the health history form. And of course, once you open them, then the counter will go down. So right now it's telling us that we've got a couple hundred files that we haven't opened because, again, we're demo practice and that's actually true. Hopefully in your practice you wouldn't have very many that hadn't been opened. The next area that we want to talk about is secure communications. So secure communications is an area that you're going to manage. This is for inbound. These are inbound. Well, actually, these are inbound and outbound that are stored here, but you don't send them from here, but you do receive them here. So one of the things you can do when you come in is you can first of all filter this by department. So let's say that I only want to handle clinical non-refills. So I can go ahead and say show refresh after selecting clinical non-refills, and I will get the emails. So here's one where this lady said, "Doc, I'm taking the estrogen but still having hot flashes." So let's go ahead and open that one and show what our possibilities are. So that's the message from the patient. You can put a staff message here. So let's say it was a complex message. You can always put a staff message here, and this is not seen by the patient. So this is just an area for staff to write comments back and forth about maybe this particular message, but these comments are not seen by the patient. These are internal comments, okay? When I'm ready to reply, or I should say the other thing I can do is, let's say this message was in the wrong place, I can put it in the right place. So let's say they had sent it into, clinical non-refills, but it really should have been in the business department. I can simply move it to another department as well, okay? And then the last thing I can do from here is I can close it if I didn't close it already. So right now it's in the pending state. So I'm going to go ahead and reply to the message by clicking the reply button. And this now allows me to reply, and in this case, I'm just going to say something smart like, "Too bad, suck it up." Okay, so it's probably going to piss her off. But in any event, what I can do now is, once I've replied to the patient, is I can go ahead and mark this message as being closed if I'm done with it. So if I think I'm done with this message, it doesn't mean she can't further reply. It's really just more of an internal mechanism, but she can still reply even on a closed message. But it's letting her know that we think this matter is closed, okay? So we told her to suck it up, and we think it's closed. So we're going to go ahead and send that message, and that will go back to the patient. The patient will get an email notification that they have a new message, but not the content. They'll go to the portal, they'll open up the portal, and then they'll see, when they go to the secure communications area, they will see the content there. And then they can further reply from there. So like I said, you can filter here by department, you can filter by location. So if you're only handling one particular location, if your staff person is only doing one location, you can filter by location. If you are a location staff person, you'll only have one location, so you won't have all the locations. So you'll have to set people up in accordance with profiles. So obviously, people at the individual clinics would only have their own location. People at headquarters would have all locations, okay? And by the way, these messages never go away. So even when you close them, they're always there. So therefore, if you want to see a closed one, you can always change this filter from open to closed, and that will show you the closed ones as well, okay? All right. Any questions about managing secure communications? So we'll move on. The next area is going to be refills, which would be for the clinician. So this is just an area that they can go to. They can see all of these are refills that have come back through the internal mechanism, which we'll talk a little bit about later on. So these are not ones that might have come from the pharmacy directly or other mechanisms. These are, since we are tracking refills on our side in the eMedical Fusion system, these are refills that have come back from there, so it's something that they would handle. Patient follow-ups is an area that some staff member or multiple staff members are responsible for handling. So these are going to be messages from the clinician to the staff that tells them a certain action needs to be done by a certain date, and we need to clean up some of these because these are pretty old ones in here. But, you know, repeat labs, for example, repeat labs and check weight, et cetera. So these are messages that were created as part of the clinical record that have a specific due date, and someone needs to monitor this area on a daily basis and basically handle the patient follow-up so they don't get behind, okay? So that's the patient follow-ups area. The next part of the dashboard here is the intake status part of the dashboard. This is going to show you the status of any patient that is in the intake process. So they've done at least, the way this actually works is, once they fill out the demographics, they show up here. I'm sorry, once you've, let me say that again. Once you sent them the intake form email that I described in the lead section, they're going to show up here as prospective patients. So that means they said, yeah, I'm ready to get started. You sent them the email, and now they show up here. Once they've done at least their demographics, then they show up down here in intake status. And then as they fill out each form, health history form, HIPAA form, payment form, make their initial appointment, et cetera, these other boxes start to get filled in with the round green check mark like you're seeing there for Jack Smith. So in Jack Smith's case, he has done his health history form. He's not done his HIPAA form or anything else. And we can see that the red dots indicate that time has passed such that we think there's a problem. So basically, you can kind of manage this area by looking at red dots, or yellow dots will also appear in some cases when it's been a certain amount of time from one step to the next step. So basically, this shows you, again, this section of the dashboard shows you exactly what's been completed. So if you're talking to a person who's trying to register, you can say, yeah, we have your health history form, but we don't have your HIPAA form yet. We need you to move on and do the next step. Or we have your health history form and your HIPAA form, but you haven't made your payment. So whatever step is remaining to be done, that's what you can so inform the patient. The last part of the dashboard down here is more about the business health. And again, keep in mind, this whole dashboard will be for, right now I'm on all locations all smashed together, but I can look at any one location separately for this dashboard based on this filter. And again, if I was a location staff, I would have a single location dashboard. I wouldn't have all the locations available to me. So down here, hopefully yours wouldn't be empty like this one is, but this is a demo practice. So you can see here, the idea here is that this is appointments today, this week, last week, and this month. And the idea is that when you set up the system, you're going to set up your ideal amount of appointments for each location, and you're going to make that in the green, and then obviously too many is in the red, and not enough is in the yellow, and really not enough is in the red. So basically, you get to set up these parameters for what's red, yellow, green, and it's really just a business health visual dashboard. You can also click on this dashboard, and it'll show you what's behind it. So it actually will show you the patients that are behind it when there are patients behind it. So it's not just a picture. It really does have some functionality as well. And as well, if there were any appointments on appointments today, I'd be able to show you there's an actual workflow there for appointments today that will let you check them in and show what room they're in and things like that if you've got multiple rooms for people to go into. So that can be handy as well as a workflow for a busier type practice. The second part of the dashboard down here is showing patient acquisition. So how many new patients have you taken in this month? How many new programs have you sold this month? So you can see here we sold 12 new programs this month. We haven't renewed any, so if we're doing renewals, we haven't renewed any programs. And we've had a few inquiries here, not very many. We've only had a few inquiries. Hopefully, again, you've had a lot more. So that's the way the dashboard works. That's the whole idea of it, is to provide you with, at a glance, what's going on in the practice. All right, next we're going to move on, and we're going to cover some of the basic things that are going on. We're going to cover, we're going to pick Jack Smith here as an example, and we're going to click into his record. So this is the way you would click, one way you can click to Jack's record. Once you get to Jack's record, it looks much like it looked on the patient side. You are now, of course, on the patient management side, but this is the information that's there. You can again see his intake status. You can see what intake stage he's in. So as he finishes different steps, he will move along this process here automatically. This is where his program information will be displayed. We'll come back here in a little bit. So once he's purchased a program, this is where his program information, how much he paid, and the expiration date is going to be stored. And then this is the appointment history section. So this is going to show like the date of his last appointment, the date of his initial appointment, how many appointments he's had, and we can see all of his appointments by clicking See All Appointments. Okay? And then this down here is a section where we can, it's a general comments area. We can just write anything down here and save it. Just this is for oddball stuff that goes on the patient's record. We can also create alerts, which are really cool. So alerts would say something like patient has outstanding bounce check for $200. Okay, so if I submit that, what's going to happen now is anytime anybody opens this patient's record, the first thing they're going to see is a pop-up letting you know that they have a bounce check. So like if I go to the make payments page, which is where I'm going next anyway, to do a checkout for this person, see I'm going to get patient has outstanding bounce check. So the first time you open this patient record, each staff person is going to get this pop-up until somebody marks discontinue alert. So you can continue the alert or discontinue the alert. I'm going to go ahead and discontinue it now. So that's a pretty handy feature for any number of different things. It could be a lab result. You want to make sure that the patient's notified. It could be a lot of different things that you want to put in that alert box. So basically, we had a general area for comments, and then we had the alerts. Okay, so this is the checkout page, and this is where you're going to come to when it's time to check the person out. And let's say, for example, you're going to sell them a program at checkout in the checkout process. So we can go here and pick something like the 12-month gold program. Again, these program names will be yours, not ours, and each clinic can have their own if they're different from one clinic to the next. So you can have different ones, and since each patient is associated with a location, they'll get the choices automatically on this screen based on the location that they're associated with. So you won't be selecting on this screen different options across different locations. On this screen, they're going to get the option that's applicable for the location that their patient record is set to. Okay. And I've had the question asked, well, what if a patient changes locations? All you got to do is go change their location on the location record, and now they'll be in the new location. So that can easily be accommodated. Okay, so in this case, I picked the 12-month gold program, and you'll notice it shows up as $1,275. And let me pick a different one. It's got more options. That one only has one option, so I want to pick one. Let's pick the platinum program. I just want one that's got more options. Okay, so right now you can see the platinum program is $2,000, and it's set up as the default was a single payment. And that's totally fine. If you take single payments, great. Then all you need to do is move on down this page and check out. However, if you're offering some of the payment plans that we can do through the system, I can select monthly. And notice then it gives me a choice between 2 and some number of installments. These are set up by you when you set up the program. So, for example, if I want 4 installments, it's going to let me know the payment is $600. Now, what you might notice is that the amount changed when I selected monthly, and that's one of the things you can do. When you set the program up, you can choose to have a lower price for a single payment and a higher price for installments. You don't have to. You could have the same price, or you can have a different price as we have in this case. So we can select up to 4 installments, and how many ever we select, the system will just keep on recalculating. In this case, it's $480, so we selected 5. The system will simply keep on recalculating what the payments are. We can even do what's called a first payment override. So let's say we like 5 payments, except we've told the patient they have to pay at least $1,000 up front. So if we put in the first payment override of $1,000, it then recalculates for us the other 4 payments. So it's still saying it's 5 payments, and they're basically equal except for the first payment's $1,000. So in this case, you see it calculated that the other 4 payments are $350. I can even override the second payment if I chose to. Let's say that we've said the first payment has to be $1,000, the next payment has to be $500. So I can override that one as well. And then let's see why I didn't like that. Oh, I see why. Yeah, because 500 is too much. I can't pay 500. So let me go back here. That was creating a situation where I was collecting too much. But in any event, like now if I make it 200, you can see that is what the second payment override does is it overrides the second to the next to the last payment and just puts in a balloon payment. So the problem was when I put in 500, it was too much. So if I put in a $200 second payment, I got 200, 200, 200, and then an 800 final payment. So you can play around with that, and you can pretty much build any kind of payment plan you want. Once we've done that, we simply come down. We're going to put in the card information, and then we're going to be able to check out. So normally, this should have already been there on the record, but I think this record was not complete. I picked a bad record. So I'm going to have to fill this out because otherwise it won't let me check out. Okay, so I filled out the record. Now keep in mind that normally this would have pre-populated, but I think this person hadn't finished registering, so the address wasn't complete. So keep in mind that it'll normally pre-populate, but remember that you should ask each time if the card they're giving you has the same billing address, because if not, you can update the billing address here for that card, because otherwise you're going to get an address mismatch and the transaction will decline. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and complete transaction. Now before I do, just point out there's 2 things we can do here. We can, by default, the system is going to email and not print. If I want to get a printed copy, I need to check this box. And if I want to suppress email, I need to check this box. So basically, if I suppress, then I'm saying don't send email and print. If I leave it by default, I'm saying email and no print. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and press complete transaction, and the system will go out and attempt to authorize this transaction. As I mentioned, you do not need a side terminal or that sort of thing. All of this processing is handled in the system directly. So in this case, if we're successful here, it should process a current transaction for a certain amount, and then it did. And I also got a couple of different subscriptions because, as you recall, I had two payment amounts. I had a $200 for 3 payments and then an $800 payment. The transaction ID is the one that indicates that's the current transaction that was successful. It won't even try the subscriptions if the transaction fails. So if the transaction fails, it's going to fail the whole thing. Okay. All right. So that's the way we check a person out. I should have mentioned here as well, we can put multiple things in this checkout counter, this checkout box. It's not just one thing. So let's say they got B12 and they got some other procedure here. We can put multiple things in here and it'll just keep, we got a heavy metal urine screen, for example. So we can just put as many things as we want into the checkout process and then use that same approach. Now, once they have checked out at least once, you can see here the cards on file. So now, for example, if I want to check out this 250, I don't need to put the card in again. The card's already on file, and I can simply scroll down and press complete transaction. Whoops, except I still need to have the state in here. I don't know, some of that dropped out. Let's see here. Anyway, you get the point. This record is incomplete, and that's creating a little issue here for me. But in any event, that's all I would normally need to do in order to check out is just simply press complete transaction, and that record, I'd be able to go ahead and check that person out. Okay? Any questions about checking out and editing patient record before I move on?
No, that's good.
Okay. Okay. All right. So the next thing we want to talk about is how do we, and this is going to be more of a survey. In this, again, this is not intended to be training, so this is going to be more of a survey. So we're going to talk about the clinical part of the system, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select a patient that I know already has quite a bit of clinical data documented, so that we can just kind of do a quick survey here of exactly what all can be done in the system from this perspective on the clinical side. So when I come up to the clinical dashboard, which I got to by pressing the stethoscope, I'm going to get this kind of a screen here, which has, some people call it our checkerboard, but basically it's our clinical dashboard. So we can see their vitals, we can see their active problems, their active meds, their clinical encounters, their plans, and their orders, all from the screen. And here's the complete menu of things we can do clinical. So we can go back to the demographic record. This is the intake forms, where it's only going to show us their intake forms, problem list, vitals. So most of the same buttons are here. As well, these dashboard items are live. And keep in mind that what you've seen me do most of the day is simply click down here on this floating menu. The floating menu has the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 most common items screens that are used so that you can get to them on one click instead of 5 or 6 like it takes with some systems. So pretty much almost all the time, look down here first. You're mostly going to be able to get to where you need to get by clicking down here or up here, and therefore you can get there in one click without having to go inside of a menu and then do something else. So let's just go inside each one of these and take a quick look. So let's go into the vitals. So I noticed that if there's vitals here, I can click into the picture and that will open it up. The vitals allows you to record any number of different vital signs that you select. Those are selected when we configure the program, and you can add more at any time. But basically there's about 10 or 12 that are automatically there, but you can hide those if you don't want them. But there's height and weight and body fat percent and blood pressure, top and bottom, heart rate, BMR, etc. So basically, you apply those measures you put those measures into the system. Keep in mind, you can choose to put in a baseline and/or a goal. You don't have to; these are optional. But for patients that are losing weight, it's nice to know where they started, because maybe they started before eMedical Fusion was around. So therefore, it's nice to know where they started, and it's also nice that they know what the goal is, because then the system will start tracking their performance towards the goal, latest measured difference to goal. So that's what this is saying. Got 9 pounds more to go. So this is the latest measured difference to goal. And then once there's at least 4 measures, it'll record a trend color. In this case, they're all green. So there's green, yellow, red as a trend color. You can also click at any point in time the history table and that'll show you all of the measures that have been recorded. So this kind of summary table just shows you the baseline, the goal, and the latest. But if you want to see all the measures, you can see it from one area right here called View History Table, so it's pretty handy. You can also, if you choose to, upload progress pictures. So each visit, for example, you could choose to upload a picture, and therefore you'd be able to show the patient a nice progress at some point. A lot of practices find that helpful for patients losing weight, because sometimes people forget what they looked like 6 months ago, and they're like, well, this hasn't been working for me. And so you say, well, I don't know, let's take a look at these pictures here, and we'll see what they tell. So sometimes the pictures are very helpful. So that's the vital signs area. So basically it's vital signs and then these progress pictures that you can upload to the person's record. The problem list is exactly that. It's all the problems that have ever been recorded for this person from either a lab order or a note, a clinical note. So as new problems get recorded on this particular patient, they're going to show up here on the master problem list, and they'll stay on there unless they get on the active master problem list, unless they get removed, and the only way they can get removed is by saying that the problem has been resolved. So that would be for acute things. Most of the things you guys are dealing with, they might be improving, but they're probably not resolved, because most of them, hormone balance is never resolved. It's always just improving, or it's stable and good, or something like that. So, these are the top part of the screen shows the active problems, and the bottom part of the screen shows the entire history view. So the difference is that, like, for example, if you take E27.49, you can see here that on 9/25 it was active, and on 12/6 it was improving. So the nice thing here is you can kind of track the progress of each problem over time by looking at the status right here on the one screen. So that's the helpful part about that. Next is the medication list. So this is where you can view the person's and also, of course, prescribe if you have a prescribing authority. This is where you can see the person's medication list. You can see their meds from other doctors. Non-prescribed meds is meds from other doctors. And you can see their nutraceuticals and nutraceutical items that they might have been prescribed as well by the doctor. So this one page shows everything. When there's red over there, that means there's a refill request on that item, so that's why it's illuminated in red. That means that person has requested a refill on that particular item, and so you need to, if you have authority, you need to click through and refill that particular item. That refill would have also been shown up here in the RX refills area, so it's not relying on you to go to this record, but once you get to this record, the red indicates where there's been a refill requested. While we're talking about the RX screen, there are two screens. So that's the prescribing screen. This right here is a screen called the RX order screen, and this is also, this screen here also is on the patient portal. So this screen will show all of the medications and supplements they've been prescribed, and it gives them a way to order all those if they have any refills left. So notice this column right here is fills available. So as long as they have refills left, like say on this one here where I have 11, I can click in there, and I can go ahead and place an order. We support both pay doctor and pay pharmacy models, so I'm not sure which one you're using, but either model is supported in the system. If it's pay pharmacy, it won't charge them. If it's pay doctor, they're going to have to pay before the order is placed. Again, they can't place an order if they have 0 refills, so in that case, someone would need to refill that first before they can place an order. That's why that one's grayed out. Okay. So again, this is a screen that the patient has an exact copy of. They can also see for any of their orders that they placed. They can see their order history here. So this is their RX order history, so they can see the history of all of their orders here in this little scroll box. So everything is there for them. Okay. Next is the clinical plan area. We'll talk about that. So the clinical plan is part of a clinical note that can be shared out with the patient. So this is another screen that the patient has a replica copy of. It doesn't have to be shared, but 99% of all physicians do share it, because obviously the plan is what you want the patient to actually do. And this plan was created using what we call our clinical plan builder functionality. So basically it allows a clinician to put in a blurb of text one time and then never have to type it again if that text becomes reusable as part of the plan builder. So, and you can also see some of the things that are going on here. Like, so here's a lifestyle plan: limit intake of fast foods to 1 or 2 times per day per month maximum as a treat. Your practice of eating fast foods having an adverse impact on your metabolism. So that is something that a clinician would have typed one time, and now they can just click, drag it into any person's plan that they want to. Same thing with this one: reduce alcohol to 1 glass of wine, 1 beer, 1 alcoholic beverage every other night, etc. So any of these can be reused once they're created one time, perform out, exercise, etc. And notice that the plan builder tool also allows the clinician to associate the particular problem with the plan so that the patient knows exactly why they're being asked to do this particular one. So, yeah, you're being asked to eat balanced, healthy meals with a target of 800 calories because you're overweight and you got heart disease, okay? So that's kind of an example. So basically, though, this obviously no person would hopefully have a plan that long other than my demo patient. But basically, this allows the clinician over time to very easily manage the plan. When they change it, it shows up with a strike through like we're seeing here. So therefore, the person can look at it and see that there's been a change. So it's very handy from that perspective. And again, it's very easy to use, and it doesn't require a lot of typing. So they can create this plan once they've created a plan and the 30 or 40 plan elements that they're going to use. They can easily then reuse those plan elements with each particular patient. Okay, the last thing we'll talk about is the lab order piece. So this is an area that we support multiple types of lab orders. Whoops, and I didn't mean to go into a particular order. Let me go back out. So on lab orders, we have what we call manual orders, and we have HL7, which are the automated orders. So if you guys are using Quest or LabCorp or one of the other labs that we're integrated with, those orders go directly into the lab's cloud. So those orders do not have to be printed and given to the patient and things like that. You can create an order and it goes directly into the cloud. The other type of order is an order that you create, what we call a manual order, and that's an order where you're going to simply generate a PDF of the requisition through this process. So in this case, I put Candida, Cardio, CBC, CRP, and CBC on this order. I've gone through and created the paper version of the requisition. This is the actual lab requisition here. So this is what it looks like. There's the practice info, the patient info, the relevant ICD codes, and the lab order tests themselves, the Candida, the CBC, and the Cardio CBC. So those are the ones that are there. With this order, I can also, one of the cool things I can do, so I can send this requisition to the patient, which I've already done in order for it to be here. But I can also, let's say these are labs that I have to charge the patient for, either because they don't have insurance or their insurance didn't cover them or something like that. I can just click this button, check out lab items, and that will drop those lab items right onto the checkout page, all set for checkout, so I don't have to retype them. So there's 127. And so now I can go ahead and check the person out like before. So that's pretty handy. That is the way we can manage our lab orders. So we have our manual lab orders over here again. We have our automated lab orders over here. The automated labs, the results populate here. For the manual labs, when you get results, you're able to load them in over here. All you have to do, for example, is say, let's say, for example, that we've received these. Go ahead and click submit. And once we say that we've received them, it gives us a place to upload. So right now I can choose the file from my drive and I can upload the lab results here. And once they're uploaded, notice I also have the option to send results to the patient. Click send attachment and send lab results to the patient with the lab results. And so that will then go through our secure messaging to send the results off to the patient. Okay, so it's all pretty automated there without having to touch this stuff multiple times. I'm just going to go to the SOAP note screen itself and talk about that for a little bit. So this is the SOAP note screen. It's coming up. This is the way I would start a brand new SOAP note. I can choose from any number of the different encounter types. So I'll say this is a BHRT encounter. Typically, you're going to be attaching, and I don't have any appointments for this person, but typically you'd be attaching this encounter to an actual appointment record. So that appointment will reflect that the note's been done for it. And once that's done, that would automatically then select the doctor and the appointment date, so you really wouldn't be selecting this. the chief complaint, you would select from your chief complaint list, in this case hormone imbalance. And then the next thing you're going to do is select a note template to use. These are templates that we create for you. So for example, I just picked this last one here. I just created this for a client that's treating chronic inflammatory response syndrome. They needed a pretty specific kind of template. So there's a new patient note. So there's a patient history. Here's a symptom questionnaire that they'll be able to click yes and no to each symptom, 37 symptoms. And then there's a fill-in box there. There's another symptoms box there for them to type. Any place where there's a box that you can type into, if you have the tool, you can also use Dragon Medical to type for you. So with Dragon Medical, it's voice recognition software. The doctor would be able to just talk into the software, and the system would type for him based on what he said, and it works pretty well. The doctors that I've seen doctors that use it that are good with it, and they get quite good. It's about 98% accurate, they say, once you've gone through the learning curve to use Dragon. So if you got docs that don't type well, the Dragon is a great solution. And any box that you can type into with our system, you can put the cursor there, and Dragon will type it into it. Okay. All right. So so again, we create these note templates for you based on what each doctor likes to see, because basically if there's 10 doctors in a room, they probably like 9 different formats for doing their notes. There's very little commonality amongst doctors on note formats. The next thing you typically want to do is a follow-up. Now, doctors can do a single follow-up, which is just a normal follow-up we call it, which is just one follow-up that they can choose. So they can put a follow-up date, for example. Let's just say January 27th, and they can type whatever they want to type here. And when this note gets saved, that follow-up would go onto the follow-up list. So we saw that list earlier. That's how it got on the list. One of the cool things you can do, though, is you can actually set up follow-up template groups. So let's say for certain types of patients, and you can have multiples of these. Let's say, for example, this is our new patient level 1 12-month follow-up plan series. So this allows me to have multiple follow-ups. You can see here, I've got 3 follow-up actions that were pre-planned out. One is at 10 days, one's at 60 more days or 70, and then this one is at 200 more days. Okay, so and it automatically calculates the follow-up dates based on the fixed number of days that I set up when I set up this template. So this is my first follow-up for new patients in 10 days. My second follow-up, and this is Medicare private contract, it doesn't even matter. But the point is that we're just illustrating here how you can use a templated follow-up set up to now put 3 follow-ups on the calendar all at once instead of having to do them one at a time. And so it really starts to automate your follow-up process so that you can really be more effective in your follow-ups. And you can have as many of these templates as you want. So if you have 3 levels of programs that have different levels of follow-ups, you could have my follow-up template for level 1 programs, for level 2 programs, and for level 3 programs, something like that. And that would be a highly automated way to manage your follow-ups, okay? So once you've done that, if you need to attach anything to this note, this is where you would do it. You can choose file and upload so you can attach something. The next thing you just need to do is add your diagnostic codes. Right now, what you're looking at here is the short list for the practice. So every practice will build a short list as a part of the configuration. You'll build your short list from the 10,000 ICD-10 codes that are out there, and then you're easily able to use the ones off the short list by just clicking them. If you need one off the full list, all you have to do is unclick practice short list and then search either for the code or the description. So you have full access to all the codes from there. And then this is where you update the master problem list treating status, status where you can update it as chronic improving or chronic worsening or improving worsening, etc. This is where you can update the status from. Once you're all done with that, you're going to just go ahead and generate and save your note, and that will lock those things in. So that's pretty much the note process. This little box over here, I should point out, is for any static details that you want to note about this person clinically. It could be something about their program. Maybe there was a special exception made for them. It could be something about them in particular. But any of those sorts of things that you want to note, that you want to have kind of in your face every time you come to the note, you put over here. This box does not update as you're working on different notes. This box is static for the patient, so it's always going to stay the same regardless of which particular note that you're on. Okay. The plan that we talked about earlier is done here over here on the plan template, and in this case I'm going to say use prior, and when I use prior, that brings back all of my prior plans automatically. If I want to add a new plan element, I just click add a new plan element, and that will then add a new blank one at the bottom here. And this is what I was saying. This is my drag and drop library over here. So let's just say, for example, I want to work with this blank plan element, and I want to find something to do with exercise. So let's say we want to do moderate exercise, right? So all we got to do is we click this, we click moderate exercise, and we click add that to plan. So it's just kind of a click and drop type thing, and that will then sprinkle over here into the plan. Now, once it's come here, I can always modify it further if I need to add something to it, so I can modify it, but perform moderate exercise to include aerobic and strength training for 30 to 60 minutes, 3 to 4 times per week. So, as you can see, I didn't have to type that. It's already there for me, and once I built my library of plans over here, that's all I have to do. I can then, of course, associate problems by doing that, just associate problems with my plans. And then when I'm ready, I can add this plan to the note. But this new plan that I've built, I just add it to the note. And now when I save the note, the whole plan will update as well. So that's the way that's done. You can see here that the plan is flown into the bottom of the note there. Okay. All right. Any questions about that, guys?
Nope, not for me. Thank
Okay.
you.
Just wanted to give you a quick tour. I know you guys, at least you, Francesca, you've seen this a couple times. It's probably getting kind of boring. I apologize for that. Hopefully for you, Joey, it gives you hopefully it gives you a breadth of the system. Again, we didn't expect you to learn anything today other than just understanding the breadth of the system. It really can do everything for you. So the key really will be maximizing the use of the system as we go through and set it up through setup and configuration. The key is going to be for you guys to set it up in a way that will allow you to maximize the use of the system. So with that, I am